The Georgia Senate runoff elections are next Tuesday. In this video, I will go through the final polling, news, data, and predictions. Let's start by looking at the most recent A to B grade polls of the regular Senate race. Two of these polls have neither candidate at 50%. One has Ossoff above 50, and one has Perdue above 50. All this tells us is that the race is very competitive, and even good polling won't be accurate enough to predict the outcome of these races. 538's polling average shows that Ossoff is leading Perdue by about 1 point, but neither candidate is at 50%. Remember that this is a runoff, so you cannot win without 50% of the vote. This means that there is still a significant amount of people who are undecided. Now let's take a look at the polls for Georgia's special election. These are the same pollsters and respondents as the polls I used in the regular election. Despite that, Warnock is averaging about 1 point ahead of Ossoff. This shows that Loeffler is a worse candidate than Perdue. Two reasons for this may be that Loeffler was never elected, she was appointed, and she is also more connected to Trump, who lost the state of Georgia. Despite that, Warnock is still not at 50% of the polling average. This is not a good sign for either Democrat candidates, because undecided voters tend to heavily break for Republicans. Let's take a quick look at the recent headlines about this race. This claim is mostly false. Loeffler was previously seen in a picture with a Klansman, but she was not campaigning with him. Her campaign stated that she did not even know who he was. David Perdue is in quarantine after coming into contact with someone who had COVID. Fox News published a story claiming that Warnock received donations from a pastor who hosted Fidel Castro. This is untrue. Okay, that's enough headlines. Now let's take a look at some early voting data. Here's a chart showing who is voting so far, based on race and ethnicity. So far, this early voting data significantly helps the Democratic candidates. Look at the frequency of black voters in the early data so far. Then look at the furthest right column. That shows the change in frequency compared to the initial 2020 election results. Black turnout is up 3.4%. Meanwhile, white turnout is down 1%. White voters tend to break for Republicans, and black voters tend to break heavily towards Democrats. The other demographic is mostly made up of biracial people. That demographic doesn't solidly vote for one party over the other, but they do tend to lean towards Democrats. Biracial turnout is up, so that is also a semi-good sign for the Democratic candidates. In the 2020 general election, Republicans did better among same-day in-person voting, and Democrats did better in early voting. This trend, known as the blue shift, is expected to continue into this runoff. It is impossible to accurately predict the outcome of this election. There are many factors that could point to either party winning, but here are the takeaways from this video. 1. Loeffler is consistently underperforming Perdue in polling data. 2. Early voting demographics are beneficial to the Democrats so far. And 3. Expect a blue shift as election results come in. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you found it interesting, and make sure to dislike if you did not find it interesting.